Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
7:07 O'Connor and Company on a beautiful Monday in your nation's capital. Can't say so much about Los Angeles, though, as we continue to give you the latest out of that fair town. Once again, a man-made disaster this time. Riots with flames fanned by the governor and the mayor. Oh, English is my second language. Coming up in 30 minutes, Newt Gingrich will be here. 8:05, Cully Stimson on the legality or lack thereof of sanctuary cities. And at 8:35, Kurt Schlichter, who has been deployed with the California National Guard multiple times, including the 92 riots of Rodney King. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
And if all that weren't enough, we've also got quite a bit going on with regard to the Supreme Court. Major court decisions coming down in favor of President Trump. You didn't get a lot of that news, of course, over the weekend. Joe diGenova, our legal analyst and former U.S. attorney for D.C., joins us to discuss all of those things. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Let's start with Kilomar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man that Chris Van Hollen went to the mat for, and all the Democrats went to the mat for. He's back in the U.S. now under a grand jury indictment over multiple counts of human trafficking, soliciting child porn, and in the documents, the indictment, it is alleged now by the Justice Department that he actually participated in the murder of a mother of a rival gang member in El Salvador. I'd love for your observation as to how this all played out and the Justice Department's role here in bringing justice to the Maryland man.
Well, I think the administration was trying to find a face-saving way to bring Garcia back to the United States, and they found it. They found that in that fabulous Tennessee traffic stop that went unenforced by the Biden administration, there was the kernel of a series of crimes and a conspiracy against the United States. And once they found out and they got it indicted with the assistance of jailed co-conspirators, they were able to bring him back to the United States for a second try at getting him convicted and eventually deported. Mr. Garcia won in only the smallest sense that he's now back in the United States, but not the way he wanted to be, because in all likelihood, he won't ever be granted bond by a federal judge. He's going to be convicted. He's going to prison, and then he's going to be deported, and he's going to be separated from his family while he's in the prison, which is his choice and their choice. So all in all, I think it's a fairly good result for the government. They handled it the right way. I listened to his lawyer claim that this was all a farce. I just don't think federal grand juries are farces.
Yeah. And meanwhile, as the Trump administration continues to enforce laws that are written with regard to immigration and enforcing our immigration laws, we're seeing, of course, the stare down out in California, where the governor and the mayor have taken the sides of the criminals. And now Gavin Newsom wants to sue the Trump administration because they deployed the National Guard to bring order to the chaos there. Is there any precedent here for a governor to sue the federal government or the president to deploy the National Guard?
It's never happened before. The last time a president deployed troops over the objection of a governor was 1965 in the middle of the civil rights crisis in the South. This is going to be an interesting case. By the way, we are now seeing the real Gavin Newsom. I don't know if you've watched him during some of these shots where he's preening about put me in handcuffs. This is not Charlie Kirk's Gavin Newsom. This is the real Gavin Newsom, the insurrectionist, the anarchist, the pretty boy face. He's just amazing. He is a total fraud. He's Bill Clinton squared. And what you see is this reaction. They are going to sue in U.S. District Court, I understand today, to get a federal judge to issue an injunction forcing the president to remove these troops. Now, this is going to be a doozy. If they find the right federal judge, the city, and he orders the president to withdraw these troops, the president will tell him to stick it, because those federal troops are now deployed around the U.S. courthouse in Los Angeles and various federal buildings, including ICE headquarters. So those troops are legally deployed to protect federal property under the act where the president is allowed to deploy them, because this is an area of domestic violence. I don't know if it's an insurrection yet, but it's clearly an area of domestic violence where enforcement of federal law is in jeopardy. So this is going to be a great set to. It's going to be really fascinating to see which federal judge he draws and whether it's a nut or somebody with a brain, because there is no way the Supreme Court is ever going to support a governor telling the president he can't deploy federal troops to protect federal officials and federal property.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm curious if anything can be done about some of these NGOs that are clearly funding this kind of these riots. I mean, I loved the images of there were people holding Mexican flags, and they were clearly, Mexican descent, and they're wearing a keffiyeh. I don't know when that started. I'm starting to get confused, frankly. But really, it isn't confusing. It's all funded by the same groups and the same NGOs. Is there something legally that can be done for NGOs that fund and encourage this kind of disaster?
Absolutely. And in fact, you read my mind, Julie. I'll give you an A+, because they get the Garcia. These organizations get the Garcia treatment. I am absolutely certain that at Maine Justice in the criminal division, under the direction of the Deputy Attorney General, they are having a federal grand jury, maybe in Los Angeles, maybe elsewhere, issuing subpoenas for the bank records of various NGOs, phone records, emails, electronic communications right now. And I can assure you that within a relatively reasonable period of time, there's going to be some indictments of funding for a fundamental conspiracy to engage in violent conduct in Los Angeles and elsewhere. This has been long in the making. There's plenty of evidence that NGOs have been knowingly funding, I wouldn't call it insurrectionists, because those terms are useless, subversive behavior, violent behavior, actions which are not in the interest of public order, which justify the deployment of National Guard troops. So it's going to be very interesting to see what type of theory they use. But yes, this can be done. These organizations can be investigated, and if the evidence exists, they can be indicted.
Good.
All right. Stay with us, Joe, because we also had several court decisions come down with regard to DOJ and the executive branches.
I didn't hear anything about it.
Well, we're about to discuss it. Quick, study up. Also, a victory for the president's decision about the Associated Press's access to the press pool, all in favor of the Trump administration. Maybe that's why you didn't hear anything about it, but our listeners will, and you'll hear it straight from the one and only Joe diGenova, just in 60 seconds. First, though, 7:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, Steve Hirshorn in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
I-95 southbound in Virginia, the long-standing accident investigation that was south of Dumfries before Triangle cleared up. Everything is now open. Still very slow southbound on 95 from Dale Boulevard, but everything is now open between Dumfries and Triangle. And now a report of an accident on 95 south near the exit for Dumfries, exit 152. Northbound 95 is still very heavy from Dale Boulevard up to the Prince William Parkway, and from Route 1 in Woodbridge up to the Franconia Springfield Parkway. 395 in delays now from the Beltway up to Seminary Road, and then from Boundary Channel Drive up to and across the 14th Street Bridge into town. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Stormwatch 7 forecast.
We've got patchy morning fog and mist, and then partly sunny today. Maybe a stray evening storm with a high hitting 83 degrees. Tonight, a chance of thunder showers, and it's going to be muggy overnight with lows hitting around 65. Tomorrow, a few morning showers, then partly sunny. Chance of afternoon thunderstorms, high of 84. Wednesday, sunny with a high in the mid-80s. Right now, it's 69 degrees, 7:16.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
We continue with Joe diGenova. Joe, let's begin with the appeals court decision in favor of the Trump administration's ban on the Associated Press's access to the White House. This has specifically with regard to the pool. This has to do with their ability to be in the Oval Office with a small a hand-selected number of journalists or on Air Force One. The Associated Press has every right to practice their business and exercise their First Amendment freedom of the press, but they don't have access to wherever they want to go in the White House. The Trump administration's determined that they're not going to get that access, and this appeals court now has decided, yes, that's correct. That's not a violation of the First Amendment. Is this going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, do you think, Joe?
Oh, sure. I'm sure the Associated Press is going to make the mistake of appealing to the Supreme Court because they believe very much so in their special status. You know, the AP used to be the gold standard. Their style book was used to teach people how to use proper English, how you reported on things, how you pronounce people's names, how you named the Gulf of America, whatever it was, even though the AP didn't want to call it the Gulf of America, even though official U.S. government documents call it the Gulf of America. The AP is no longer the gold standard. They are, in fact, the lead standard. They are lead in your water. They are the lead in the water of American news. They have become so woke, so corrupt, so incompetent. I remember dealing with the AP reporters at the courthouse back in the 1980s. They were good, hardworking reporters. Just give me the facts. Give me a copy of the indictment. Let me report what you've done. Now, everything has an edge. Everything is about the downtrodden, the victim, and America is bad. Trump, of course, they have Trump derangement syndrome to a fare thee well. So the court, by a vote of 2-1, said they're not entitled to special access, that there are certain areas and things that the president does that are close to him that they do not have a right to be. That includes Air Force One, the Oval Office, most of the private rooms in the White House. And that's it. They're going to be included in certain groups of reporters that are brought in occasionally, but they're not getting special access anymore. They have earned this crown of thorns.
Yes.
In fact, I'm looking at Thursday's press pool was the out-of-town travel pool was ABC. Politico was the print pool. BBC was the radio pool. Yeah, I know ABC is. What do you think of Terry Moran being part of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the in-town pool was the second.
Terry is a very sick puppy, and there is no way that after the George Stephanopoulos settlement they can keep Terry Moran on board. He has to be fired. He has to be fired. Now, if he isn't fired, just remember that newsroom will remain infected with this type of political bias. I've known Terry Moran since the 1970s. He is a sick little pup. He's a pompous little putz.
But ABC News has known that about him and all that. I mean, I gave the list of David Muir, George Stephanopoulos, Martha Raddatz, Jonathan Karl, the cast of The View. I mean, this is who ABC News hires as these gatekeepers for the news and the analysis of the news.
I wouldn't. You know what? If I were Trump, I'd just issue an order. Nobody goes on ABC News. No platform for ABC News. Nobody in the administration is allowed to go on ABC News. Yeah. Make them suffer. Believe me, the oxygen that Trump and his people provide for these news broadcasts is life to them. It's life. If you deny them people on the set, they go crazy.
All right, two other quick decisions here having to do with Doge. This is, of course, Doge. Everyone's like, oh, Doge, it's Elon Musk. No, it's the Office of Management Budget. This is Russ Vought and the director of OMB, who utilizes this task force to come up with efficiency and find fraud and waste. There had been a order preventing Doge from accessing Social Security records, and a court granted a stay on that order. And then there was also an order requiring Doge to hand over information about work and personnel, and a court blocked that order. These all seem to be the correct positions for the court to take in terms of them. You know, the administration and the executive branch is allowed to conduct business the way it sees fit.
Well, one would think that. But as long as you have, 637 federal judges around the country with a huge number of Obama judges being selected by NGOs and liberal and ultra-leftist plaintiffs, they're going to get some early action and early success. Ultimately, the president is going to win almost every one of these battles. The problem for him is he's trying to get things done. They are trying to stop him from doing them. They don't care if they win or lose. They just want to prevent him from doing things quickly. I think to me, what this shows is the president is right. He has good numbers with support from the American people. Watching what's happening in Los Angeles is 2020 redux. It's Minnesota all over again. You either stop this now or you have chaos. And I want to see who the federal judge is who tries to stop the president from deploying federal troops to protect federal buildings, federal personnel, and federal law enforcement. This is going to be the great showdown, and Gavin Newsom is going to lose.
Joe diGenova, always good to have our Mondays with you at 7 p.m. Thanks for joining us today, sir.
Thanks, Joe.
My pleasure.